like you. Yeah? We get to meet people that we don't know. We get to talk to people that we don't know. And there's a certain excitement and magic about that. And the magic of radio is such that when we create something here, something is being created out there in somebody else's mind. And that's the excitement that we get. That for us is the turning point where we think we're doing something worthwhile in our lives. And that's how we enjoy our job so much. It's creating the magic in people's minds. And I think radio is a very special kind of magic, really, where you do and say things, but not physically do things. You can talk about things, but people will still picture those things in their minds. And remember what I said to you earlier about radio being the theatre of the mind. Well, that's exactly what we practice.
What skills do you need? What skills do you need? What skills do you need?
Speak up.
What skills do you need? Like IT or... what skills do you need?
Skills? What skills do you need? Well, it depends what part of creative media you want to get into. If you want to get into radio, it's nice to have a good voice, but it's not essential. Yeah? You need to be able to project your voice. You need to be able to know what's happening in the world. You need to know about what's happening in the news. You need to know about your music. You see, getting into radio is quite an interesting thing because it's got many different things to it. You can get into journalism, so you need to know about your news quite a lot. You could get into music, and therefore you need to know about what that particular type of music, be an expert at it, basically, because people will rely on you for information. So, in terms of skills, what skills do you need for radio in particular? You need to know. If you want to get into journalism and into news and into reporting, you need to be pretty up there with news and need to know what's happening with news and current affairs in the world. If you want to get into the music side of things, obviously you need to know your music quite well, but don't forget there's different genres of music. So you need to know a particular type of music and know it very well, like the back of your hand, because you will then become an authority, because you're going to be talking about it on the radio. Okay? Michael?
If you want to be a radio artist, you have to do a lot of communicating in it with people. So say if I picked up, I'm doing sociology now, and that's got to do with like people. Like I could still become a radio artist if I got.
Communication is the key, and you're absolutely right, Michael, because communication is all about being one-to-one with a person. Do you remember what I said to you earlier about radio being a one-to-one medium? People trust you, so when they're trusting you and listening to you on the radio, communication skills are very important. You can't go on the air and talk about rubbish. And not talk about anything and talk about yesterday's football games or 2 days ago rather than talk about what's coming up today. People will trust you for information. So communication skills are very important. And also, of course, with your communication skills, it's also important how you display yourself and how you basically use your body language, how you talk to people, how you communicate to people. And you've got to be the friendly voice at the other end of the radio, you see. And that's what people trust. So communication skills are very, very important because people put a great deal of trust in you as a person. And as you grow older, you'll learn this because you'll actually have to show people that you're a trustworthy person. Well, we have to do that day in, day out for 2, 3, 4 hours of the day when we're on the radio. We have to prove to people that we have those communication skills to be trusted. So that's a very important key issue that you need to build upon if you want to get into the business. You know, learn to be trusted and learn to trust people and try and get that in communication terms, get that across to people. It's difficult because you could say one thing, people say, Michael's just talking a lot of rubbish. But then at the same time, you've got to convince people that whilst you're talking rubbish, there is some sense in what you're saying as well. And that's the wonderful thing about radio.
How do you get local and wider community involved in the shows?
How do we get... Well, first of all, as an Asian radio station, we have an obligation to the Asian community, be it Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, and we cover a broad spectrum of listenership. In order to get them involved, we do that first of all by having impartial news. Our news is not biased towards any one particular religion, caste, creed or colour. Our news is very open. The music that we play, the language that we speak, it's a universal language. And I'll give you a phenomenon here. I do the breakfast show, and I have the highest listening figures on the radio station. Now, my breakfast show is broadcast entirely in English. The news is in English, the traffic and travel news is in English, the finance news is in English, The only Asian element of my program is the music. Now, isn't that very strange? What a strange phenomenon that is. Yeah? The only Asian element of that program is the music. And yet I've got the highest listening figures on the radio station. And what does that tell you about our community? It tells you that people are quite universal. It tells you that people are very easy to adapt to certain things in life. And it also tells you that people can accept different ways of communication. And this is something that you learn as part of your course, the different ways of communicating. And answering Michael's question a little bit further, you see, communication is done in many different ways, and we communicate that. So we try and be impartial, we try and involve everyone in terms of our news, in terms of what we say on the radio. We might want to talk about the weather. We might say, oh, the weather's pretty much like what it's like in India today, you know? Temperatures 22 degrees Celsius, it's really nice. People will relate to that. Yeah? Have I answered your question?